Mario!
Mysteries in video games are my bread and butter. Just like in our real world, I'm instantly drawn to the unknown and want to know all I can about it. Now, when you have a spooky video game and you discover something really weird in it, of course this only amplifies that desire. And that's basically what happened in my latest playthrough of Luigi's Mansion. I discovered something pretty perplexing, and it led me on a hunt around the entire mansion. So let me set the stage a bit. Obviously, Luigi's Mansion for 3DS was just released, and Luigi's Mansion 3 is on its way. In preparation, I thought I'd head back to this haunted house. A few weeks back, I was working on 2 different Luigi's Mansion videos. One was a documentary about the house itself, my Pixel Portal video, and one was about exploring the inaccessible front yard of Luigi's Mansion. Obviously, with the creation of these 2 videos, I found myself romping around these dusty halls of this old house gathering tons of footage. Now, for anyone who has watched this channel at all, you know I use in-game cameras to get cinematic shots of video games. Way back in early 2015 is when I started this process, because in real life I was a cinematographer, and I wanted to tell stories in video games the same way I told stories through moving the camera in real life. Think of it like how my friend She says Boundary breaks games with camera hacks, but more so with a focus on it being like a shot for a feature film. Slow pans, interesting angles, new perspectives. And this is exactly where I found myself when I noticed something quite odd in Luigi's Mansion. At the time, I was actually out of bounds in the observatory floating out in space. I made Luigi fall off the starry bridge into the black abyss, so I could get a better shot of the entire room for my Pixel Portals video. This was one of my favorite rooms in the mansion, so I wanted to get something that looked really awesome, and that's when I noticed a weird glimmer way off in the distance. Now, I'm sort of surprised I noticed this at all, because there are so many fading stars swirling around this room that I imagine this glimmer would have gotten lost in it. Anyways, I decided to keep filming the shot I was working on, the wide shot of the room, and then I turned my attention back to what I saw, and it was gone. Whatever I saw in the distance magically vanished. That was until I found myself filming at a different angle, and I noticed it again. And this time, I took the camera right up to it to see what it was. And to my surprise, it was a floating coin? Somehow, there was a coin floating far off in space that was just spinning there. Now obviously, this is weird, but I instantly thought that I was just seeing through the entire mansion, and that the coin was there because I failed to collect it earlier. In Luigi's Mansion, when you travel room to room, the previous room unloads when you go through the door. However, the position of that room is still there. Think of the entire house being laid out on a grid. Rooms exist even if they are unloaded. And this is why speedrunning tricks like clipping through the walls and falling through the floors work. Heck, if Luigi falls off the roof to the left at the top of the building, he'll fall through all the floors, all the way into the butler's room. This is because that space is still accounted for. But the reason why I began hunting this coin was because that I know that even when games unload rooms or spaces, oftentimes objects are not unloaded. You typically get an object floating in a black space, and it can be seen if your character looks at it. This is why in Super Mario Galaxy 2, on Grandmaster Galaxy midway through the level, many players were perplexed that a launch star could be seen in the distance, with no way to access it. In reality, what had happened is that the previous map had unloaded except for this object. Thus, the star could be seen from far away, making people think it was something else. This was a star they had just used, but the displacement made them think otherwise. Rewinding back to Luigi's Mansion, that was my thought process. I began hunting through this mansion room by room to see the position of where the coin was at. The issue is that your in-game camera has to hit a very specific angle for the coin to be viewed, otherwise it vanishes. Finding that angle in each room was tricky, but I used it to get a general sense of where I thought the coin was. Based on the position, it looked like it was in the front left of the mansion, possibly in the foyer, the butler's room, or even that room that could only be accessed by the mouse hole. So I tracked the coin until I got to those areas, and that's when I noticed something odd. I could find the coin in nearby rooms, but in the foyer, I couldn't. I looked all around, but for some reason it wasn't there. So I went into the butler's room, and that's when I realized the position of the coin had switched. But beyond that, there was something else that caught my eye. Way out of bounds and about 4 to 5 floors down was a single white square. This square isn't a texture file, it's just a piece of geometry painted white. So I thought that was strange, but more strange was that the coin's position was now inverted. This is when I returned to the foyer and finally discovered the coin's position was mirrored and opposite of where I expected it would be. So now this is where things get a bit odd, because that means these coins aren't objects that are being seen from other rooms. They are unique to each and every room. At this point, I popped onto YouTube to see if anyone else had documented these weird coins, and I found 2 sources. She says from Boundary Break has stumbled upon one in Egad's lab, which is normally not explorable, and another creator, Inkstar, had located another coin alongside a floating poster in the room that you free the booze initially. Inkstar took things a step further and outlined that these coins don't behave like normal coins in the mansion, because they aren't affected by gravity. And this really got me thinking about why these coins existed. Right after this, I explored many other rooms of the mansion and found the same coins weirdly out of bounds. And this led me to developing 3 theories about why these coins exist out in the void. 1. They were used to track the position and to align the rooms of the mansion. Hypothetically, let's say the center of each room isn't actually the center of the model, but instead each room is anchored in position and these coins were used to lay out the rooms so they matched up. It doesn't seem practical, but it came to mind. This is the least likely option because there are way better ways to do this. 2. One of the interior designers duplicated the map for each room to build out the other rooms. During this duplication process, the coins that were placed out of bounds for testing purposes was copied with the map file. Rinse and repeat, and now you have coins all over the entire mansion. Because it was super far out of bounds, it wasn't noticed. And probably if it was only deleted locally on that current map. This will be why certain rooms lack coins potentially, or at least I couldn't find them. 3. These coins are asset recall spots. The correct term for this is called object pooling, and is basically a way that a game can generate objects faster because creating and destroying objects is inefficient. Without object pooling, this can slow games down significantly, especially if a lot of objects are being spawned. Think of in a game where you're constantly firing bullets. It would bog the game down if bullets were massively created on the spot. However, with object pooling, you load assets when the game or room loads, and you pull from that inactive pool of objects. In this case, it's coins. But these coins aren't the ones you find in drawers, because if they were, you would probably find floating dollar bills out of bounds too. This weird floating coin is the object recall spot for when Luigi takes damage in the game. Every time Luigi takes damage, he loses coins and only coins. This would explain why only a coin is out there. And object pooling is the most likely reason this coin exists. Before this video ends, I actually just stumbled upon a 4th theory. And this theory isn't actually my theory, it's sourced from the cutting room floor, which is a place I should probably check out more often. But what they say about this coin is actually a similar coin that appears in the beta build of Luigi's Mansion. The one that was showed off as a demo before the game actually came out. Back in the demo, there was actually a spinning coin on the HUD. So this coin out of bounds could very well be that. But at the same time, it actually satisfies my 3rd theory. The theory that it's an object recall spot, the object pooling. Because when you took damage in the old version of the game, the coins that came out of Luigi didn't fall flat on the ground. They actually spun. That same spinning motion we see in this coin out of bounds. So I actually think this might be a hybrid between theory 4 and theory 3. That this may be an asset left behind by the old demo, but also at that time it was also an object pooling spot for the coins that came out of Luigi. So I just wanted to record that and throw that out there because I literally just saw this before I was uploading this video, so we covered the topic entirely. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So one small glimpse while trying to record a shimmering bridge led me on one heck of a wild goose chase looking for answers. But if you found this video interesting, I have a whole slew of gaming mysteries coming down the pipeline that I think you'll enjoy. Lots of them have never been documented online either, which is super exciting. I'm talking about instantaneous travel, parallel universes and games that aren't Super Mario 64, and much, much more. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe now so you can watch them as soon as they come out. And with that, thanks for tuning in to this coin conundrum. Perhaps you'll enjoy one of these gaming mysteries. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.